my name's Mandy and welcome to my YouTube channel What Mandy Made Next. Today I'm sharing with you my stitching projects that I've worked on during the month of March. So here is a reminder of my March planner. It's a free download from the Fat Quarter shop and I've inputted the projects using my iPad. So I've allocated Saturday, the first Saturday, and also the Fridays to a spring small. So what do I mean by spring small? Well, this is what I've been stitching on. It's the Spring Quaker pattern by Primrose Cottage Stitches. But before I just show you the project, let me just give you a little reminder of this dough bowl. So what do I mean by dough bowl? Well, I've been watching a lot of floss tubers and they all seem to have these what they call dough bowls where they keep their mini projects, you know, their cross stitch projects. So we call them either smalls or pillows. So when I said spring smalls, I didn't mean underwear, I meant these little pillows. So that's what I've been wanting to make. Now, a proper primitive dough bowl is what they used to use many years ago for rising the dough in. I mean, I'm not going to be rising any dough in that one, but Susie Stitcher, and I'll pop a link in. By the way, any information or links to channels will all be in the description box down below, so if you click on more underneath this video, that should open up that information. Okay, so I always watch Susie. She's a lovely vlogger, so if you don't know about Susie, go and give her a watch because they are beautiful projects what she makes. So Susie had, I think she ordered hers online, this dough bowl, from the range. And we live near a range, so I thought, well, I'll go up and have a look. And I happened to find them, and I bought one. They're quite inexpensive. I think they retail about £10. And so when we got home, Dave stained it up for me because obviously you want it to look a bit more primitive, don't you? And I've been using that ever since to decorate my dresser. Another idea from Davina from Little Workroom Crafts. Hi Davina, if you're watching. So I thought, yeah, I'll pop my dough bowl on there and yeah, put some little pillows in. So I just thought I'd give a quick recap. This is Spring Blessings, and so I stitched this a few years ago now. It's on a 32 count Belfast linen. I was really lucky. I went into our local charity shop and they had, this lady had destashed, and basically there was just bags and bags of DMC thread. I mean, admittedly it's the old DMC because I think they changed the coding, didn't they, or upgraded it, but it was still good thread, and there was quite a few, maybe 10 of the same colour, but they were all in these bags and they were selling them off. I think they were about £4.50 or something like that. But basically I was getting a skein for probably 20 pence. So, you know, I think I spent about £40 on these threads. And Dave said, go back and get the rest. And I said, no, it's a lot of money to spend. And I wish I had now. But yeah, I've got quite a lot of thread now in my stash. But also, there was lots of linen there, not even open, still in the packet, an Ada. And so I purchased all that as well. And also, on a return trip, I got a little stand, you know, them little, I think the siesta stands where they go underneath your leg, and you can pop your hoop on, and I got one of them as well for a £5. So I didn't do too bad. So this is a Belfast linen from that haul, and so are all the threads. So really it's quite an inexpensive project, this one was. The pattern I purchased from, I think if I remember rightly, it was Peakside Crafts, and it's by Lila Studios. Now she does, in the pattern she'll have 2 seasons, say spring and summer, the birds, to stitch for these small pillows, and then there's an autumn and a winter one. But she also does a spring blessings too, and this is from the spring blessings too. So there we go. And then I just got some fabric out of my stash, which I thought was spring-like, and made this little pillow. So the second one is this one, and this one's called Spring Rolls, and this is a pattern by Plum Street Samplers. Again, I purchased a pattern from Peakside Crafts. Now this is stitched on, it is a linen, it's by DMC, and this is a 28 count grey linen. So I purchased the linen from Lakeside Crafts in the UK, and again all this was from Stash the Threads. So yeah, now how I did this, it's alright, it's got some smelly sticks in the back, you know, like cinnamon. I love the smell of cinnamon, whatever season. So I used an envelope cushion method to back the cushion with, so I can actually take this out. So I made a cushion just out of plain cotton, and I used a toy filling. I mean, I know a lot of people use walnut shells and more authentic and all that, but I used a toy filling. And then I've used this envelope, and then I sewed on the fabric to the cross stitch fabric, this lovely green, and I made it an envelope style, and then I secured it with a button from my stash. Now, the reason I did this is because with it being a grey linen, I thought this is going to get grubby quite quickly, and sometimes we have put this on top of our hearth where our coal and log burner is, see, so you know, I don't want it getting grubby. So at least I can take this off, can't I, and wash it. Anyhow, we digress. Let's get the project. The cotton I used, okay, it's a DMC and it's number 52. Now I was watching another floss tuber, and she says, you know, these aren't called variegated, but on the website they are advertised as variegated threads. So I'm going to put this against the board, and you can see, excuse the threads on the board, a little bit closer if I bring it up, the different colours you get, you see. So it'll go from this lovely dark purple into a lilac. Oh, I've loved this project. It's like knitting. I love knitting with different colours, you know, in the wool. I do. I think it's so interesting. So yeah, I've loved every minute of that. And to get the actual tones, what I've done is usually I do a loop start where I have one piece of thread and I loop it and stitch that way to start my stitching and secure it. But what I've done is I've taken 2 pieces of thread and stitched that way, so I haven't got a lilac and a dark purple. I've just started with that dark and then it's gone into light, if you know what I mean. If you're a cross stitcher, you'll see what I'm talking about. Well, let's show you the piece. Now, like I say, I used my stash from that charity shop haul, and this, I think I've counted 12 holes, So I'm pretty sure this is a 12 count Ada, and it's in the cream colourway. And there we go. Now, because it's a lower count, that means the actual worked piece, the graph size, is bigger. I don't know whether I should work this, you know, fashion it into a pillow, or whether I should frame it. I don't know. But I love this. So I have put in this year's date. So I usually put the date in that I finished stitching the project. On the original pattern it's 2024, but I thought, well, it's not like it's an old sampler, is it? You know, so I put 2025 in. So I've got this idea of using this variegated thread. I'm sure it was the 911 stitcher I was watching, and she did this beautiful Christmas Quaker piece, and it was in the red DMC. So it had gone like red and then like into a pink. It was absolutely beautiful, like burgundies and reds it was. I chose the colour purple because purple and yellow, those colours remind me so much of spring, such as pink and pale pink and green do, but I think it's because you get crocuses, don't you, in yellow and purple, and you got daffodils yellow and aubrecias purple, and they all flower and come out in spring. So that's my spring Quaker. So this is my Liberty Bell kit. It's called Mrs. Cottontail, and as you can see, she's wearing an apron with her 3 baby rabbits. So there's nothing more I love than opening up my Liberty Bell kits. So you get your fabrics and your instructions. Please note, you do not get stuffing, so you'd have to source this yourself. But yeah, there's the haberdashery, what you require. And then there's this beautiful orange coloured fabric for the apron. And then a lovely blue coloured fabric. I think this one's by Henry Glass for the dress. Sue always picks out these little designs, which I love. Okay, and some more haberdashery, what you require, and the rabbit skin. So let's get making. So when it comes to stitching round curves, I always alter my stitch length from 2.5 to 1.5. Tinier stitches, it makes it easier to go round a curve and it gives you a neater finish. So this is the skirt, and I need to gather the top, so I alter my stitch to the longest one, which is number 5, and I stitch 2 rows, and when attaching the skirt to the bodice I will stitch in between those 2 rows of gathering stitches, and that will ensure my gathers are neat. For those who are for the astute of you, you'll probably notice Mrs. Cottontail there in the background hiding behind the flowers. Now, for those of you who followed me for a while, I made Mrs. Cottontail last year. So both the kits, Petite Fleur and Mrs. Cottontail, like I say, are from Liberty Belle. Now, my daughter didn't realise I'd already got the kit, and so she purchased one for me. I think it was for my birthday. So I ended up with two Mrs. Cottontails. I'm so happy how this has turned out. It's turned out better than the original. So I love her ears and her headdress. Now, I did change this a little bit. So for a headdress, I've just got some ribbon out of my stash, okay, and then I've got a big shot. So I've got a flower die, which is there's two what I'm matching. There's a larger one and smaller one, so I use that to cut the fabric. So these are the flowers, so you can see a big one and then there's a small one, and then we go big, and then what I've done is just gathered them up and I stitched them to this ribbon, and then I've popped this round the head for a headband and stitched the ribbon on the back. So this hides any unsightly stitching of the ears, you see. And there's her babies all in her apron. They're beautiful. I decided I would, like I did on my other one, these got the little paws down, and this one in the middle's got a paws up. So there we go. The only thing I haven't done is I haven't painted her feet. So Sue usually, who designed the pattern, usually just paints a shoe on with some acrylic paint, or I suppose you could use nail varnish. So I'll let Lucy do that. She can have the pleasure. But yeah, really pleased how she's turned out. So that's Mrs. Cottontail. Right, my next rabbit is Petite Fleur. Isn't she petite compared to Mrs. Cottontail? So again, I have changed the pattern a little bit. So where the jacket is, Sue does suggest you could, if you wanted to, embellish it. So I use the embroidery function on my sewing machine, and I just embroidered the front of her jacket. I did it in a yellow cotton so it would match with the yellow flower in her dress. The bag I also changed. Now she's got little pantaloons on. And I've just used my pinking shears round the top and the bottom because I thought it'd be a bit fiddly to hem them, and it'll stop, you know, help stop fraying. But I think this brown cord here, it's like it's not a cord, it's like a strong thread, was initially for tying the bloomers up, but I've just used some floss, and then I've used that for a handbag. And then what I've done is I've sewn a little button of my own on, which is from the stash, and it's brown, so it picks up the brown flower in the dress. And I stitched some lace round the cuffs, which was just left over from when I stitched it on the dress. She's very petite. You do get the little flower there, and I've stuck that on because that isn't a button, that's an embellishment. And then she's got her little necklace, you get that as well. So that's Petite Fleur. And again, there is a pattern what you can just gauge how to paint on her shoes. I haven't done that yet, but when I get some nail varnish I will. I mean, a lot of my nail varnish is from the 80s, so I don't want that clogging up on a paws. But yeah, I think she's really cute. Right, so those are my two rabbits. So on a Tuesday I like to work on cross stitch, and I've adopted the principle from Anne, and her YouTube channel is Toby Knits, where you work for 3 hours on a project. So I thought, well, I'll introduce 3 projects into the rotation and then work on each one systematically for 3 hours each time I pick it up. So the first one is a year at Hawksrun Hollow, and this is a pattern by Carriage House Samplings. I'm working this on this lovely fabric. It's an Ada and it's an 18 count vintage country mocha. The modelling on this, you know, the modelling is very, very subtle. You can just about pick it up. Last time I spoke to you, I was working on the October block here. I've just got a few motifs to stitch and the wording, which is now all finished. And now I'm working on the November block. Now I did make a mistake here. I don't know how I did that, but I did. And I couldn't fathom out what I'd done because, you know, it wasn't matching up. But anyhow, I thought I'm not going to rip all these stitches out, so I finagled it and it's now correct. I've got the correct squares, you know, when I come to stitch. So yeah, you can't really tell. Now I am running out of this lovely lemon coloured thread here, so I'm going to have a deep dive in my stash this afternoon, and if not, it'll have to go onto my shopping list to get some more thread. But that's my year at Hawksrun Hollow. Now I wanted to introduce, like I said, 2 other patterns, but I've only introduced one. I thought I'll just have to take it a little bit steady. And it's living in this lovely project bag. You've seen this one before. And this is called a vintage farmhouse. It's by Pengally, the designer. And I access this pattern free because I subscribe to Primitive Quilts and Projects, and this was a pattern in their summer 2024 magazine. So I'm stitching this on a 28 Cashel. I've purchased this Cashel linen from Hobbycraft, and you know, I'm enjoying it because it's really good fun. This is how far I've got. Yeah, really happy how this is turning out. This is how high the actual piece will be, and then I've stitched the back and I've finished the tree, and I've now started on this lettering, and I'm working across the top as well. I would say I'm about 25% through. I decided I was going to use the call for threads for this particular project because when I looked at the picture in the magazine, I could see the modelling, the tonals of the threads, and I thought that looked really pretty. I ordered all the call for threads, so they're either Weeks Dye Works or Classic, is it Classic Colourworks? So yeah, I've started using floss drops. Don't know if I'm quite sold yet, because I don't like it when they tangle. But let me put them against the board. So these, oh, not doing too well today. These are all the colours. Okay. Now, when I was ordering the mountain mist, so I ordered them all at once, and I ordered the mountain mist, and when it came, I thought, oh, what a lovely colour, and it's in the, I think it's the Classic Colourworks. Let me have a look. Yeah, Oh, Gentle Art, sorry. It's Gentle Art Mountain Mist, number 7045. That one. Okay. I mean, I must admit, some of the threads you can see more tonals and some you can't. But this one I particularly liked stitching with. But then I thought, compared to the photograph, it looks light. But tell you what I've done, they've used WIPGO Works Mountain Mist. And I didn't realise that, WIPGO Works did one. So I've bought the one by Gentle Arts, but I'm not too fussed. I'm not too worried about that. I'm quite pleased with how it's looking. Right, Wednesday is my Wool Wednesday, when I like to work with wool. So I do knit and I crochet, and I also have a knitting machine that I purchased at Christmas time from Hobbycraft. It's a Silver Reed LK150. I've had knitting machine in the past, and I've decided I would purchase one and have some fun with that. At the moment I'm just getting used to, knitting up these jumpers and cardigans for my grandchildren, mainly on this knitting machine. Now the beauty of this one is it takes double knitting, because in the past knitting machines mainly took just the 4-ply. So I am having some good fun here, because it's taking double knit, and it'll also take Aran weights. So yeah. So when I used to machine knit in the 90s, I used to have a magazine. It was called Knitting Machine News, you see, and so you'd have all the patterns, and you could just easily translate to the knitting machine, because that's what the patterns were designed for. I have no patterns, so I've been using this, and it's the Ann Budd book of sweaters. Now I don't like drop sleeves. I just don't like the look of drop sleeves. But they look alright on my grandchildren. They look fine. And I wanted to knit a raglan. So last time I spoke to you, I really wanted to get used to knitting a raglan, because the other thing, when you're knitting on a knitting machine, your fabric is showing the purl side only. Okay, so you haven't got the knit side. It is a little confusing. So whatever you do, you've got to reverse the way you transfer stitches, so you can get the same patterning. Yeah, so I wanted to knit this raglan jumper, but in this book the raglans are knit in the round. It's so much easier to transfer an ordinary knitting pattern if it's knitting flat. So all the raglan jumpers in this book are knit in the round, you see. And most modern knitwear designers today will design knitting patterns for knit in the round. So I decided I will try a satin sleeve. This is the wool I've used. It's a double knitting wool. It's acrylic. It's by Stylecraft, Highland Heathers, and it's in the Hawthorn colourway. And if I bring it up close, it is showing true to colour there. And you can just about make out the very subtle, the marbliness, a little yellow and the odd red fleck in it. But it's a beautiful, beautiful yarn. So I've knitting this satin sleeve. Now I use a mattress stitch. I'll show you a little clip of him wearing it. Now I use a mattress stitch to stitch the sides of the jumper up, and then I've had to sew in the sleeves, you see, into the arm side. But the sleeve, although I tried not make it bulky, it does look a little bulky there on his shoulders. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to wash and block this. I don't usually block acrylic, but I'm going to have to do something to try and just flatten those seams. On a Thursday I like to work on my WIPGO projects, and numbers 9 and 24 were called. So let me show you the progress of those projects. So this is the first one. This is called Chicken Feedsack and it's by Carriage House Samplings. So this is how far I've got. Again, this is on some linen I got from the charity shop. And there we go. It doesn't look a lot, does it? For 2 days worth of work on this. You know, I've worked for this on about 6 hours, but yeah, I am watching television at the same time. That's my problem, so I keep looking up. But yeah, my next project is living in this bag, and it's a pattern by Erica Michaels. It's called Pumpkins Please. And I've finished this one. There wasn't a lot of work to do on this, to be fair. Working this on 18 count vintage country mocha. This was a scrap, and that's how it's looking. I have finished it now, and I love this. Let me bring this a bit closer. This bit here are smyrna stitches, and I love them. I love how they look. I love the colours. So all this again is from Stash, the threads, and yeah, I'm going to fashion that into a small pillow, and that will go in the dough bowl for my autumn display. One more project to show you living in this project bag. So on the second weekend of the month, that's WIPGO weekend, and you can choose any WIPGO project you like and work on it. So I've been working on this one. It's a petite from the Gold Collection by Dimensions, and it's called Ciffside Beacon. Now last time I spoke to you I'd gotten this far. And this is how far I've got now. Now it doesn't look like I've done a lot of work for a, you know, working on it Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but there's so much confetti and colour changes in this. But when I pull it back, I can now see the fence, you know, the fence is forming. When you're working on it, you can't really see it. Noticed that on the 22nd and the 29th on a Saturday, I denoted those days to BOM, which is block of the month. So you may recall a couple of years ago I was attending workshops at Liberty Bell to make the Riverside Knoll quilt. This is a pattern by Kim DL, and it was using her lovely new fabric range then, which was called Writer's Rain. So yeah, I did fall behind quite drastically, as you do, but because you would go to the workshop and you would put together the first block, and then you were meant to go home and finish off the other corresponding blocks, but I never did, and I got quite waylaid with it. Anyhow, I've finished it and I've pieced it up. What I'm hoping to do then is I will upload a video when I finish quilting it, and I'll show you how I've basted it and what the thought process was behind my chosen method of quilting. Okay. I hope you enjoyed this vlog, and until I see you next time, happy crafting, and hopefully next week I will be sharing my plans for crafting for April. Until I see you, happy crafting!